The cope, the bad, and the ugly from the Jets' first quarter-ish of the 2025 season. So, for starters, I've said it before, Herman Edwards was correct when he said you play to win the game. And I do think that Aaron Glenn's original goal for the season, like I know he said, I'm here to win now, and he was kind of, puffing out his chest a little bit as the new sheriff in town when he first took over. But right before the season, he said that the goal was to be a team that garners pride, that you could be proud of. And I thought that was pretty good framing, because it's like, all right, you're not attaching a win total to it, knowing that you don't exactly have a 12-win team on your hands, but we all kind of know what that means. So far, that hasn't happened yet, but you want to see signs of pending competency, and just as importantly, I've made this point a few times, you want Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji to not be operating out of desperation next offseason, right? Because they're going to be here. I know some people are already talking about one and dones. Like, I think they're going to win some games and they're going to be here. I don't think Woody Johnson has ever one and done to coach or GM since he's been here. Now, you need to start stacking some wins. You need to start showing some competency of clean football, having Justin Fields play adequately, which he's done in 2 out of 3 games. And that'll be enough to enter the offseason with some options, right? With some options. That's what you want. Now, some people will say, well, you have to draft a quarterback no matter what, because Fields isn't the guy. Maybe they want to do that. But if they win 2 games, then their only choice will be drafting whatever quarterback falls to them in round 1, and he's going to be on the field in October. Whereas if you win enough games and you show enough competency, then that gives you options to do things on your timeline. All right, that's all I'm saying. Because everyone says, well, Dan Campbell started 0-20,000. No one cares. Guys, seriously, we got to stop. We got to stop what Dan Campbell started. It's like we're like bots. Like that. It just gets in our mind. Like, Dan Campbell, 0-11, Dan Campbell. It doesn't mean anything. It has nothing to do with the Jets. Because, number one, for every Dan Campbell starting 0-1,000,000, there's a dozen failed head coaches you could name. It's like people saying, Zach Wilson is going to be Josh Allen because he sucked his rookie year. Evidence being bad is not evidence of being good in the future. You want to be good. Being good is good. Being bad is bad. No one was saying at the beginning of the year, Dan Campbell went 0-1,000,000, so that's perfectly fine. That's what we accept. If that happens, that's good. No one was saying that. That's a fatal dose of copium with that. Grinds my gears. But the other point that people are missing there, and look, I get it. What people are saying is you can't write off people for a tough start. That's fine. I get that. But Dan Campbell also had a 27-year-old quarterback under contract for a few years who had been to multiple Pro Bowls, who had been a starting quarterback in the Super Bowl. They had at least a medium-term solution, some stability at the quarterback position with Jared Goff. And like I just mentioned, Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn might be facing a quarterback decision. That's why it is also different with them. So let's get some wins, man. The Jets are playing some pretty bad teams in the next couple months. Let's beat some of them, It's got to win some games. All right. Now, I think Aaron Glenn's best decision so far, and the biggest reason for optimism, would be the offense, particularly the offensive coordinator and the offensive line. Going to get to Fields in a minute. I have some complimentary things to say about him, but I think that, look, the Jets they cut a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame receiver. They lost what at the time many of us thought was their best offensive lineman in AVT. And the Fields Engstrom offense is more efficient in many, many ways than the Jets offense was last year. And the Jets lead the NFL in yards before contact on rushing attempts. What does that mean? That means schematically and from a personnel perspective, your offensive line is doing a good job. To be honest, all the Jets running backs, even Breece Hall, like week 1, he was pretty good, but they're just getting the yards that are there for them. They're all pretty replaceable backs so far this year. Breece Hall has the talent to be above that, but just calling it like we see it, these guys have been replaceable. They're not ripping, Bijan Robinson making 3 guys miss. That's just not happening. They're getting the yards that are blocked for them, and a lot of yards are being blocked for them. The Jets lead the league in that category by a wide margin. If you look at the nerd charts, yards before contact per rush, number 1 in the NFL. Where were they last year? 23rd. Massive jump. How about this one? The Jets are 6th in average separation of targeted pass catchers. They ranked 14th in that last year. And they only have one dude who's like a legitimate wide receiver. So These guys are getting schemed open pretty good. The Jets are also second in number of explosive plays. Plays that go over 20 yards. Number second in the NFL. A lot of them on the ground. A couple of them by Fields. So you're getting big plays. Running backs are getting lanes. Lackluster pass catching unit is being schemed open. Now, look, they got to find a way to scheme up a screen pass to beat a blitz. They got to let Fields try to be a little bit more aggressive earlier in games. Those are all fine critiques. But there's definitely a might have something here vibe with Tanner Engstrand for sure. And that's good to see, because when's the last time the Jets have had competent offensive coaching? It's been a minute. Now, let's talk about Aaron Glenn's probably worst decision so far is hiring Steve Wilks. Now, with all the caveats that the Jets have massive personnel limitations on their defense, of course. Massive personnel limitations. But heading into the year, if we said, hey, you're a Quincy Williams and Jermaine Johnson injury away from being bottom 5 in EPA, DVOA, turnovers forced, tackling, forcing 3 and outs, sacks, pressures, QB hits, passes defended, that's not acceptable, right? So firing Steve Wilks doesn't make it a top 10 unit, but this defense should not be that bad. And, the Jaguars, I've mentioned before, went from a bottom 10 to a top 10 defense while making less investments than the Jets. It's coaching matters there. The Jets dished out $140 million in guarantees to back 7 defenders this offseason while drafting 3 more in the mid-rounds. Having a solid coverage unit was the priority in a relatively frugal offseason, and it's arguably been the worst part of the team. It's coaching. And some people say, well, it's the players. Why are they all over pursuing? Why are they all... Dude, it's coaching. Like, if we're going to say that's not coaching, then you almost are saying coaching doesn't do anything. Because if they were all dialed in, if they were all fundamentally sound, if they were all on the same page, like, we would be saying that they're well coached. But when they don't do that, it's like, oh, it's just on the players. No, dude, this defense is not well coached. Sorry, it's just not. So we'll split the difference on the 2 coordinators so far. Now on Justin Fields. What's funny is, and this is very predictable, if he plays all these games, remaining games, he's going to rank high in Jets history in single season. In a lot of stuff. Probably not passing yards because he already missed a game, and then they had the one game where he only completed 3 passes. So he's behind the sticks on that one. But so far, this is where he'd rank in Jets history single season. Completion percentage, 6th. Yards per attempt, 3rd. Passer rating, 3rd. Rush yards per game, 1st. Touchdown interception ratio for 1st, right? 2-0 there. But yeah, Fields, I think he's been about the 20th best quarterback or so in the league, and his performance matches his contract. Most importantly, this is the number I was always going to look for with Fields this year. 13.1%. That is his pressure to sack rate. That is awesome. It has been in his career, it's been anywhere from 20 to 29%. That is a non-starter. Because when we sign Fields, you're looking at his passing profile, and you're like, all right, through the lens of this guy's a top 3 running quarterback, these are some serviceable passing numbers, right? But the devil in the details was always that egregious pressure to sack rate. It's a non-starter. Every about 2.2 sacks you take is equivalent to a turnover in terms of points lost. Now, he's done better. Now, obviously, this is the best pass protection he's had in his career, but Fields individually has managed pressure better than he has in the past. So that's very, very encouraging that he has improved that. Now, the 3.51 seconds time to throw, look, yeah, he's always had a long time to throw. He had a long time to throw at Ohio State, so he's never going to be a 2.6 second time to throw. But I will... Obviously, this is exacerbated by the Jets not having a ton of separators. And then also, they don't throw screen passes, So if your offense calls 4 or 5 screen passes a game, and then you get those 4 or 5 passes that are they're like a half a second time to throw, that's really going to bring down your average. So I think that is worth mentioning with the time to throw. We'll see. The chickens may come home to roost on there, especially if they suffer an offensive line injury. But for right now, Justin Fields has played well enough to win in 2 of your 3 games. And if we're looking back at the end of the year, it's most likely the Jets are going to have scored more points per game than they have since probably Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2015. And he's going to be up there in terms of a lot of passing stats in single season Jets history, man. Bar is pretty low, but yeah, I mean, 2 out of the 3 games you've got and play good enough to win, I would say. All right, so let's talk about two guys here. Certified superstar and then writing a past sin. Garrett Wilson is an elite receiver. You know, I've wondered, is he just really good? Do we overrate our own guys? Yeah, we do, but not him. Not him. He is a legitimate elite receiver. He's QB proof. Justin Fields actually has the highest catchable ball rate on targets to Garrett Wilson of any QB of Garrett's career so far. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. Number 3, Mike White. How about that? How about that? But Garrett is, he's like second in yards. He's incredibly efficient. It's not just always hitting a ton of targets. Yards per target, percentage of catches he's making. He's made contested catches. He's had better ball security. Like, he's just locked in, and he was clearly ready to level up his game this year. So you absolutely love to see it. Armand Membu. You don't pass on Tristan Wirfs twice. You do it once, you learn your lesson, and when you get a second opportunity to take Tristan Wirfs, you take him. You can count on one hand the number of offensive linemen who have come out of the draft this century with his size and athletic profile combined. He looks like Tarzan. He tests like Tarzan. He plays like somebody insulted Tarzan's mother. So that was a no-brainer pick, and he looks the part immediately. Now here's the reality check for me. Dude, this roster just ain't that good, man. They're just not. Like, after the Jets' big 4 draft picks in 2022, the following 17 picks by the former front office has yielded 3 starters, and they shipped away 4 day 2 picks as rentals and charged up a bunch of money on tomorrow's tab. Now, that's an excuse for about 1 year. Moving forward, it's not an excuse for Glenn and Muji anymore. It doesn't excuse a perpetual rebuild for 20 years. I see your Dan Campbell started 0-5,000, and I raise you that Sean Payton made the playoffs with the 5th rookie QB off the board and a gazillion dollars in dead cap from cutting Russell Wilson. If I were a betting man, I'd still wager that quarterback and wide receiver are going to be the top priorities for the Jets draft in the early part of next year. They have no 3rd-round pick, so fixing this defense is going to take some really, really serious resourcefulness. Let's get a win on Sunday, and we'll talk Jets soon.